This week is Parshas Pinchas. This is a continuation of the story of Bilam and Balak. In the beginning of Parshas Balak, the king of Moab, asks for Bilam's advice as to how to prevail against the children of Israel. You have the brachas that Hashem compels Bilam to give, but the advice that he gives, where he really does grant Balak's request, is that he advises Balak to send the women of Moab into the Israelite camp to seduce the men, especially if they can seduce them to avodah zarah, because the God of Israel is a God that hates promiscuity. So Balak accepts that advice, and the plan has a degree of success. A plague breaks out. 24,000 of the Israelites perish in the plague. In a particularly heinous situation, the prince of, or what shall we say, a count in the tribe of Shimon actually publicly goes before Moshe with a Moabite princess, or a Midianite princess. It's one of the two. His name is Zimri. She is Cosby. Pinchas, which is getting to our parsha, basically he grabs a spear, and when the two of them go into a tent alone, he stabs them. And the shock of Pinchas's action ends the wayward path of the Israelites at a time when the judges of Israel were not inclined to do much about it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that Pinchas, because of his zealousness, has atoned for the Jewish people. He has scoured their sin away, and for this he is going to get his bris shalom, his covenant of peace. Pinchas becomes a high-ranking Kohen after that. He participates with Yahushua in the conquest of the land of Israel. And many of the high priests are among his descendants. The scriptural problem that you run into is Bilam's bracha, where he says he sees no vice in Yaakov and no mischief in Yisrael. So how do you square that with what you see is a very strong walk on the wild side by the Bnei Yisrael? Okay, what you get is an explanation of that, or a hint of that, in the Haftorah, which deals with Eliyahu, Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, who also was reckoned as a zealot. Kinati, I have been very zealous for Hashem, he says. He is fleeing for his wife from Isabel and Achav, Jezebel, because he has incited a group of the Bnei Yisrael to kill the prophets of Baal. And the people had previously been worshiping Baal. So Isabel, who is a Phoenician princess, and that's her religion, is quite inflamed about that. So what happens is Eliyahu hides out in a cave, and then he has a vision from Hashem, and Hashem asks him why he is there, and he explains that the Yisrael have abandoned the bris of Hashem, meaning that they don't really wish to be considered an Am Kadosh anymore, in a kingdom of Kohanim. They do not want Hashem to be their God. So Hashem says to him, and in addition to that, Eliyahu asks that God should take his life. Doesn't see any point to live anymore. So what Hashem says to him is, appoint Hazael king of Aram, basically what is considered Syria today. Probably is the same people, it's just got a different name. Then Namshi as to be king of Israel. Now, at this point, it's after Shlomo HaMelech, where the Bnei Yisrael have split into two kingdoms. Yisrael is the northern kingdom, basically under Ephraim, more or less, and Yehuda, Judah, we're called Jews, is where the survivors of the remnant of Judah. In fact, Judah really includes all of the tribes. Some of them are part of this territory, or at least in part. Judah is where you have King David. Well, King David and King Solomon was when the kingdom was united, but you have King Hizkiyahu, King Yehoshaphat, King Yehoyash, the great Tzaddikim. The kingdom of Israel is basically savagery. They're murdering each other. It would seem that the Pushtan in Afghanistan are the exiled northern kingdom today. But anyway, what HaKadosh Baruch says is that you should appoint Elisha the Navi, and the people who escape from the sword of Hazael will be slain by the sword of Namshi, and those that escape from Namshi will be slaughtered by Elisha, until only 7,000 survivors remain, those that have never bowed to Baal and those that have never kissed his idol. In fact, the nation does enough tshuva to avert a degree to that extent. But what we see is that this is getting back to no vice in Yaakov, no mischief in Yisrael. This is the essence and the core of Israel. The 7,000 people who clung to the faith in an extremely adverse situation. And what we see is, starting with Pinchas, who's only really one, it's grown to 7,000. And in addition, just like Pinchas has grown in importance, so too will these 7,000. It's perhaps a dismal way to look at history, but to a certain extent, what we see is a light shining into darkness that begins to radiate and push away the darkness. That's the 7,000 survivors, that ultimately those are the ones that are going to prevail. The people who are chasing after the vanities of this world and their own vanities and the pleasures of the body and are crude and arrogant, those are the people who are not going to survive. Ultimately, it's the good people who are humble, keep a low profile, but they're the ones who actually will flourish, and they're the ones that will see the light of a new day, when the nation really will fulfill its creed that all of Israel will have a share in the world to come, that the nation will entirely be tzaddikim, that they will inherit the land of Israel forever, and they will be like a branch of God's plantation, the work of his hands in which he finds himself in glory.